My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey, welcome back, everybody. We got a special treat for you today. Zooming in from Oahu, Hawaii, we have a very, very accomplished real estate investor, real estate entrepreneur, real estate thought leader, Mr. Richard Wilson. Richard has been in the game for quite some time, and for the last 18 years, he's built up one of the most significant real estate investor clubs that I know of, which is called the Family Office Club. And and thousands of members over the years doing big deals, lots of them, raising lots of capital. And what I'm really interested in chatting with Richard about here is he's probably the guy who has interviewed and gotten to know more billionaires than anybody. He's made a real focus on that, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think, Richard, you said you've interviewed 43 of them or something like that, and you've had a whole bunch speak at your events. So we're going to be talking a little bit about mindset stuff, because not only has he interviewed high performing real estate guys and business titans, but also a ton of elite athletes as well. So, and very, very well read on the whole idea of success and how to get our mental game up. So Richard, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Appreciate you having me here, Dave.
Yeah. So first things first, let's talk a little bit, not too much, but let's talk a little bit about the backstory of how you got into this whole thing and how you decided to start really focusing on interviewing, getting to know, talking with these ultra successful type people.
Right. Yeah. So 18 years ago, I started the Investor Club. It was just a blog, and then started getting a couple thousand hits a day. So I bought familyoffices.com. It kind of broke my brain that there was no thought leader trail guide for the niche. So I was like, well, I'll just share what I'm learning. And then just kind of over 18 years became one of the thought leaders. And took me 12 years to buy billionaires.com. I just poked them every 2 to 4 months and politely, persistently wore them down. And that's how we own that asset. So we're just,
I don't think I'm scared to ask how much billionaires.com cost you.
It was only $500,000. I think we wouldn't sell it for a couple million now. I don't think it'll ever go out of style to be connected to such folks. But importantly, about you asking that origination question, I was broke with less money in my bank account than I had due that month for rent when I started the business. And it was only by studying and listening to super founders, which we call family offices, that I learned how to build my business. So that's like connected to your whole mindset, mental model focus of this interview,
Okay. Very, very interesting. So what are some of the commonalities that you've seen after talking with all of these people? And maybe give us an idea of the kind of folks who you have interviewed, names that we might be familiar with, including sporting figures, those kind of things, just to give people context.
Yeah. On the pro athlete side, there's a UFC fighter, 2-time champion named Kane. There's Mike Tyson and 75 other, mostly NBA, NFL pro athletes. On the family office side, it's been 1,500 investors at our events. And Tim Draper is one of the billionaires we interviewed, Mark Cuban, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone's come and spoken a few times. And then more importantly, just tons of decamillionaire, centimillionaire, normal real estate, private investor folks that just come and share, what they've learned. Just someone genuine like yourself that's like, hey, this is what I figured out. Don't do this, do this. And that creates kind of the learning as we go. But happy to dive into kind of what's most common, most unique, most powerful, et cetera.
Let's do that.
Okay. So a couple of things I've realized is that after reading 125 books authored by billionaires and interviewing 45 of them, there's a few things. One is they expect excellence all around them. That's the expectation. So if you're not there, they push for that. They're voracious learners. And like Mark Cuban said, he went to go work at a software company in college, and he found out that every customer coming in didn't read the software manual, and the owner of the software business didn't read the software manual for his own franchise of selling the software. no one reads the manual. And so Mark Cuban's point is you focus on a high value niche, you study the craft, no one else is going to want to read and no one else is going to focus for a decade. And so doing that gives you a ridiculously deep advantage over almost everyone else in the niche because they all get distracted and don't really read the manual. And the final thing I'd say on his initial comments was just the number of times where Billionaire said, people laughed at me, told me I was stupid, said I didn't know what I was doing, said it was impossible. That's not the industry standard. You don't know how things are done in this space and storage or senior living, whatever. And then pulled it off and caught the rocket like Elon and then became a billionaire because they did what others thought were. That comes up like all the time, So it's
Yeah.
you can't miss that.
Well, you've done a pretty impressive job of building a very successful business over the last 18 years. And thanks for sharing your origin story, not even quite being able to make rent that month when you started things. So, love those kind of rags to riches stories. What has been for you recently like the most high impact nugget of wisdom that you've learned and then applied to your own business, Richard?
Um, I think that what's been reinforced is that who the person is matters more than what the deal is, or the amount of trust in the deal matters way more than the IRR someone puts on a piece of paper. Because you can create, I've never seen a bad pro forma, right? I
Yeah.
could model world peace in a spreadsheet and make it look convincing, right? It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's the number one most important thing: meeting in person, building trust, building a real relationship, tactically leveraging AI to do everything you did up to today, but do it 10 times faster, more thoroughly. This whole episode's on mental models, so I'd love to give you the AI tool where we've got 2,500 mental models from Munger, Warren, Bezos, Elon, Sun Tzu, the 1,500 investors on stage, and then we also transcribed 986 billionaire talks. We put all those 2,500 mental models in one tool, so you can say, "This is what I'm trying to do. Here's my challenge. Here's what I need to get better at," and it will say, "Here's some mental models for you to read daily and make sure you act on." So like it's not letting AI think for you. It's like looking at the best thinkers in the world and then saying, "Oh, I want that mental model. I want that mental model. I want to be more like that," and then becoming the best version of yourself based on that. So I'll shoot you the link to share with your community if it would be helpful to them with that
Oh,
tool.
that'd be fantastic. I really appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah, mental models. That's what would your definition of a mental model be? And maybe give us an example of what that actually looks like in real life.
Yeah, no one ever asked that, even though I bring this up all the time. So that's a great question. So a mental model is basically if I do X and Y, then I know Z happens. Or when I act like this other thing will occur, or it's much more likely to. An example is what I talked about earlier about Mark Cuban, right? Like if you focus on a high value niche, no one else wants to read a software manual. And so what's the equivalent of that? It's me reading all 250 books authored by billionaires, not on them. That's an obnoxious process. It's taken me 2 years and some, and I'm only halfway through. Sounds kind of pathetic, right? I should be done by now, right? Like,
Well, unless your first book you read was speed reading, you're doing pretty good, man.
yeah, but I mean that's a mental model though, right? And
Yeah.
so there's little ones that summarize a whole book sometimes. Like little things I read every morning is what you do matters more than how hard you work. Or,
Yeah.
I want to outwork and have more fun, like out fun the competition of the head of every other investor club globally. And I read 50 of these statements to myself. I have a Word document template I'm happy to provide to you as well. But every morning I read my monthly, quarterly, annual goals, and then these 50 mental programming statements that are all little mental models that summarize a book, a talk from a centimillionaire, remind me of what a billionaire said, and they're personal to me. And it's the mental programming where if I do that, then I know that I'm going to be in great shape, right? And it simplifies things down to little ways that imagine your brain was an LLM and you are prompting it to do a certain thing and act as a certain thing. It's almost like here's the prompt I need to live on to be the best husband, the best father, the best CEO. I just need to do these, act like this, and keep these goals in mind. And when negative or random things come to me through the world, they get blocked off by what I've decided I'm going to be like.
And you do this every morning.
Every single morning I do it. I
Yeah.
have it where I shave, I get my cup of coffee, turn on the hot shower, and I read those mental models before I look at anything else.
That's really, really smart. And I've kind of heard different versions of that before. How long have you been doing that yourself, Richard? And kind of did you come up with that on your own, or did somebody suggest something like that to you and you kind of modified it yourself? How'd that go?
I think it was about 15 years ago is when I made
Oh,
my first one pager. So I've got copies of it in my bookshelf back here of the old versions of them. And I'm trying to remember. I think it's Wyatt Woodsmall said that you should put your goals somewhere that you bump into them, and it's a reminder. And then
mhm.
Jeff Hoffman is the billionaire creator of the airport check-in kiosk, and he's spoken at our events a few times. He's a fascinating guy, and I was excited to hear because I'm nowhere near his level of success that he said one of the reasons he was ridiculously successful is he put little sticky notes on his bathroom mirror. And when he brushed his teeth, it would say, I want to travel to 140 countries. I want to do X. I want to do Y. And that he attributes that as like a top 10 thing that led to him being really successful.
That's fascinating. I've heard a lot of people talk about the um,
Miracle Morning or whatever it is.
well, the miracle morning plus the whole draw out your goals and your what the heck's that called? The
Vision
big
board type
vision
thing.
board. Yeah, vision board.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
what.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Yeah.
filling in the blanks. So it's kind of a written version of that you go over. I like that. That's really smart. But you've really personalized that to yourself, and it sounds like you update it, you modify it on a quasi regular basis as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Some things I read so many times, they're deep in my psyche and I don't need to read it anymore. And then my goals change for monthly,
Yeah.
quarterly, annual. So I need to update it once a month for that reason. I'm always switching on and off a little statement. And then I have pictures of the people that I want to emulate some part of who they are. It's not like I want to become some of these people, but parts of them are what I'm trying to adapt to, you know?
Yeah, very cool. The other thing that stuck out for me that you were talking about earlier, Richard, is the importance of the relationship versus just the offering memorandum, right? And
Right.
especially these days, after at least in the multifamily space, a tumultuous couple of years to say the least, that could be more important than ever. So you've got thousands of people in your community. Have you seen some of the results, some of the backlash from that situation coming through, and how are people handling that?
Yeah, for sure. I think investors are pretty bloodied, you know, and frustrated with some things, right? Distribution stopped. They don't know if they lost their money or not, or someone just
Yeah.
disappeared off the face of the planet and doesn't reply to anything, or conservation easement got blown up and they don't trust the syndicator, and now weird things happen. So lots of that. So I think even more so, people are like wanting to make sure they understand how is value added. Maybe go visit the property, meet in person. I got to interview Robert Cialdini, Dr. Robert Cialdini, and
Mhm.
he said that it's scientifically proven that people are 16 times more likely to do a transaction with you if you meet with them in person. And that scientific study was done before the age of AI, where everything could be
Yeah.
faked. Like this whole podcast could just be AI generating something, right? Nowadays. And that wasn't true back then when the study was done. And also, if you think about it, that study was done on like buying a vacuum or a Rolex watch or a TV. But what if you're choosing your spouse or you're putting $250,000 into something? Maybe you want to
Right.
meet them in person, just maybe, right? Like, so so I think that if you think about the investment world, it has to be way more than 16 times as important to meet in person. And so in a world of AI where everything can be faked, it's also more. So it's like the way I see it is that meeting in person will become ever more important the easier it is to fake things. And in this type of environment, it's just critical to walk a property in person and meet in person, et cetera.
Yeah, that those are some wise. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. It is so easy to fake everything. You can fake voices. You can just reading about a scam for older people here in Canada, getting people scamming them with their grandchildren's voices, like their real voices, calling them up on the phone. It's just
Wow.
scary, scary, scary how
Super scary.
pervasive and it's just going to get even more
Yeah.
crazy. So yeah, I can see that 100%. So what would you say like to the smaller syndicator real estate investor, somebody who, they're not the big guys yet, who's wanting to connect with investors, raise capital? How can they kind of, I mean, you guys do 18 events a year or something crazy like that and
Yeah.
all over the place, but how can the
Right.
little guy kind of apply that for his or her real estate investing business?
Right. I'll rattle off like what I would suggest they would do. So one is if you're not getting momentum, I would focus in on the niche where people do appreciate your work most. Where do you produce the best returns, safe for investors, or it's unique compared to what everyone else is pitching investors, and you're most sure that you can force appreciation and add value, and just get really good at that and be laser focused in one city or in one food group of real estate and go deep and be amazing and world class, at least number one, like in San Diego for that niche or whatever, wherever your niche is, right?
Right.
Because when you're laser focused, you could know the owner of every storage property in one zip code of San Diego because you're
Mhm.
that laser focused, right? And you can't do that if you're going national and you can't meet with those people face to face. So I would do that. I would also be really concise in your communications and have your deal structure sweat for you. So design a custom deal structure that is aligned and transparent and investors really love. Don't have it just sit there like having a brand name like Wilson Capital. We don't know if you're investing in outhouses in Somalia or self-storage in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe have a brand name that's not some Greek god or three letters that have no meaning. Have a one-liner that says what you do that hits people between the eyes. Have a pitch deck that's under 20 pages, not 44 pages. Have a one-pager, and then have a 1-minute video from your founder telling people why they should care that your investment option exists. I think that like 95% of people don't have those 7 bullet points. If you do those 7 things, like you're going to be like so far ahead of most capital raisers. They're like, here's my super long deck that my own spouse and business partner haven't read every word of. You want to read it? Like, no, they don't, you know?
Or take a look at my offering memorandum.
Yeah.
Right
It's only
off the get.
144 pages. You'll
Yeah.
love it for sure.
Yeah. No, no, that makes a lot of sense, Richard. Sorry, I'm chuckling because it's it's uh it's scary how many people do the exact opposite of what you just suggested here. And it's just
Yeah.
so less is
Nonsense.
definitely more concise, uh, being a real person, being a specialist,
Yeah.
laser focusing on things, and yeah, meeting people in person. So what, as we're kind of wrapping up our conversation here, Richard, you've helped people raise gazillions of dollars in private capital. What what do you find works best for the newer capital raiser to break ice with people, get the conversation going, and then keep in touch with people? Because, like you said, yeah, you got to be
Yeah.
meeting in person ideally, and it's not going to be a one shot deal. You're going to have to stay in touch and keep following up. I know you help people do
Right.
that a lot.
Yeah, you do definitely have to be politely persistent, right?
Yeah.
Mark Cuban, I cold emailed, and the 13th time he answered my interview questions for billionaires.com, right? And I had to use a sense of humor in the subject line, and then he replied. And he ignored that I existed before then, but I just politely followed up. I didn't follow up 13 times in one day.
Yeah.
But I think the main psychological thing that can really help early stage is to think about a transaction closing based on 3 trust curves. There's the curve of how high up the curve are they on trusting you because they've known you for a decade or they don't know you at all. How high up the trust curve are they on data centers or multifamily, whatever your niche is? Do they know the area cold, or is investment in data centers very confusing and you have to educate them from ground up?
Yeah.
And the third thing is, are they local to the deal and local to the transaction or yourself? And if you're pitching people that do not know you, do not know your industry, they're not local to the asset, you're probably completely wasting your time unless you shook their hand at an event or got to know them, you have some sort of in or referral to them. And every meeting you go to, you should ask yourself, does this person already know me super well, but my industry is confusing as heck? Or is this person local to the asset and they know the industry cold, they don't trust me or know me at all? How do I add value to them first? Because what people make the mistake on is emailing. And whether it's someone they met at a conference, any conference, doesn't have to be ours, or a database, doesn't have to be one of ours. And they say, oh, well, I emailed 50 people after the event or from the database and no one replied. And they're almost like it's their job to reply and they're not taking responsibility for it. Like no one
Yeah.
owes you a response to your email. You literally have to be the most valuable thing in their inbox that day. And we tell people they have to add value first. And they say, yeah, well, my multifamily deals out of this world. We're going to 5X their money. So there's
Yeah. My
value.
pitch deck. I said in my pitch deck, isn't that valuable enough? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, no, you should send them an infographic. Like, here's 12 questions you should ask every syndicator that shows you a real estate deal. And most of them won't even be able to answer those 12 questions. And you just saved yourself a ton of time on the phone. That's value first. And now it's in their
Mm.
best interest to save those 12 questions for everybody else pitching them. Right. So just adding value first, thinking about the 3 trust curves. I think that'd be like my recommendation for new capital raisers.
Yeah. Wise words, Richard. Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been a lot of fun. And I know there's going to be a lot of people curious and wanting to find out more about you. Where should they go? Where should they go to check out Richard Wilson and what you're up to?
Well, I just shot you a link on Zoom for the free AI tool, mental models, so people can play around with that. Our website is familyoffices.com. People can shoot me an email at richard@familyoffices.com. And if anyone wants a drive-by on our 30 AI tools, they can go to gainsuperintelligence.com. And then it will list out the 30 AI tools we've developed and kind of explain how they work and how they help people. So those would be the best spots, but I hope you can make it to one of our events sometime, Dave, so we can meet face to face. And I appreciate you having me on here.
My pleasure. Richard, thanks so much. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode. Hey there. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com.